Hey nerdy knitter, Tanya here. It's time to settle in for another podcast episode. So grab a drink and your knitting and let's settle in and have a good chat. Just a few announcements before we get to our knitting. First of all, this is going to be the last video of the year. I'm taking the next 2 weeks off just to relax and be with family and lots of knitting and puzzles and games and visiting and other things, but I just want to take a little break. But I want to wish you a good holiday season and hope you have a lot of restful time with your friends and family. And I will be back with a new video the second week of January. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I plan to rest and relax and do puzzles and just hang out and knit a lot. But okay, a few other announcements. The Next Level Knitting Conference is coming up in April. It's hosted by the Knitting Guild Association. I can finally announce that I'm teaching there. They just announced it this month, so we can tell everybody. I'm teaching 2 classes, one on the art of lace knitting and the other is on fix your knits, or the basics of fixing your knitting mistakes. And it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a guild member to attend this, and it's a huge event. I just think it's so much fun. There are lots of classes. I think there's like 3 or 4 classes for each time slot. And you can attend live, of course, but then I think they did this last year and I'm pretty sure it's the same. You have access to the replays for, I think, 6 months. So you can watch all of the classes, and there are lots. There's either 3 or 4 per session, and there's like 3, maybe 4 sessions a day, and other fun events as well, like a virtual fashion show and giveaways and prizes and lots of really fun stuff and lots of great classes. The lineup is really great. I'll have a link down below so you can click through and check that out. It's at early bird pricing right now. And I think it's a really good deal for a 3-day conference and lots of classes. Plus you get 6 months, I think it's 6 months, to watch all of the replays, because you can't attend every single thing live since there's multiple classes in the same time slots. But definitely worth checking out if you like to attend live classes. And I taught a class for them last year and had such a good time, so I'm looking forward to teaching again this year. And it was my first time teaching for a virtual event, not teaching on my own, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, especially the students are on a different platform, but the teachers are on Zoom, and I had logged in and we have like a person behind the scenes to make sure everything is set up, and my audio wasn't working. They couldn't hear me at all. So I was kind of having a freak out moment, and thankfully we log in like 10 minutes early so we can get issues like that sorted out. And while I'm scrambling around trying to sort things out, I knock over my glass of water. Didn't have time to clean it up, so I like threw a towel on it. I had water all over the floor under my feet. So I just put a towel there, and I had to sit and teach after knocking water all over the floor. Thankfully it wasn't all over my desk and everything, but that was kind of funny. So hopefully, well, this year I think I will use a closed water bottle. I won't have an open glass like that, and that'll fix that problem, hopefully. But it was great fun teaching, and there were so many great classes. I had a lot of fun attending all of the other ones as well, and chatting with other students, and then watching replays. It was really nice to have access so I could go back and watch the ones that I had missed. So I'll have a link down below for that, and you can check out the pricing and the classes and see if that's something that you're interested in attending. And one new pattern release this month for our next sock in the sock series. I am surprised at how different these socks look. They're the same colors. I just reversed the stripes, but I think it really affects the speckled yarn in there, like when it's striped with the blue compared to striped with the yellow. I prefer this one. I really like this. My daughter calls these the Donald Duck socks. She thinks they look like the Donald Duck colors. But this pattern is just released this month. These are for the 4th sock tutorial in our toe-up sock series, using flexible DPNs, I think. Nope, 2 circulars. I just finished the flexible DPNs. Those are coming up. So 2 circulars and mock short row toe and heel, and then just some simple stripes, knit 1, purl 1 rib, and a sewn bind off. So some fun techniques if you haven't explored any of those techniques before. But that is a new pattern release if you want to try knitting some socks from toe to cuff. Now the last thing before we get to our knitting is our book for the month, and this is Embroidery on Knits by Judit Gummlich, published by Lina Publishing. And this is the 2nd book I've gotten from that publishing company, and let me tell you, they are beautiful books. They're not cheap. They're but they're expensive books, but they are so beautifully done. Just beautiful hardcover, full color photographs, and well, this one comes with some templates that you can use for the embroidery. Really fabulous book. So let me tell you about this one. I'll go to an overhead so you can see what I'm seeing. So you can see here's the table of contents. After the introduction, there's basically like your lists of materials and tools, how to prepare your hoop and do the embroidery. Then there's a stitch directory, which walks you through how to do this section of stitches, like how to do a running stitch, a back stitch, split stitch, lazy daisy, satin stitch, long and short stitch, and French knots. So all of those basic stitches that you would need to do all of the embroidery. Then there's a section specifically for silk ribbon embroidery, which looks so beautiful. Then some information on like how to place colors and things like that. And then we have the actual projects, which are the different embroidery elements. Now, there aren't any patterns in here. This is more about adding different embroidery embellishments to whatever you're knitting. So it just has this list of embroidery pieces that you can add to whatever project you're working on. So you can see here some of the beautiful color photographs, and those are some of the supplies you would use. And then information on how to actually embroider using a hoop to hold your project. And then there are those pages that explain how to do different embroidery techniques, and they use some black line drawings to illustrate that. And here's an example of one of the motifs. There's a large drawing of it and then a little information, and you can see it in action on a sweater. And then more information about it. She even includes like information about the project that was used, like the sweater itself that the embroidery is featured on, which is really nice. So it's a whole collection of all of these beautiful motifs that you can put on your garments. And I really like this last section as well about embroidering mittens. So most of the projects in here, it demonstrates how to use an embroidery hoop to do the embroidery, but of course this is a small project and it would be hard to put in a hoop, so it shows how to do more of a freehand style in this last chapter. And then of course all of the embroidery patterns are on a page in the back, so you can copy them and put them on your knitted projects. So just such a lovely book, and I am interested in exploring this, like taking some plain sweaters and adding just some little embroidered touches to them. So definitely worth investing if you want to explore adding embroidery to your knits. The last little thing before we get to our knitting is our monthly sponsor. This month, the podcast is sponsored by My Maker's Life over on Etsy. I'm going to link to her Etsy shop and her Instagram down below. She got in touch with me. She wanted to provide a giveaway product. So that is this month's giveaway prize. You will see at the end what that is. But she does handmade bags and tea caddies. They're so cute, and hand-dyed yarn as well. So you can check out her Instagram or her Etsy shop and see what she has. But if you wait till the end, we're going to have a giveaway featuring one of her products. So I've got all of my knitting piled up over here beside me so I can go through everything all at once. And we're going to start, of course, with our finished objects. I do have another finished hat. I don't have it here with me. I just washed and blocked it, and it's in the pile to give to my father-in-law. I have a bag of acrylic yarn. I'm just going through and knitting up all these hats and mittens and things. So another one for the donation pile. The next thing is a pair of mittens that I am happy to finally have finished. Black yarn, fingering weight. It requires a lot of light when you're trying to pick up stitches for a thumb gusset, let me tell you that. So this is the Kiperoosa Mitten from this book, Traditions Revisited, Modern Estonian Knits by Aleks Byrd. That other book I mentioned from Lina Publishing is just such a beautiful book. It's got sort of that, the embroidery that's on the mittens is, I don't know if it's going to show up, it's sort of like embossed on the cover right here. It's just a lovely book. I already have a few other patterns in there that I would like to knit and learn some more techniques. So this one had two different techniques in the mitten. It has this fringe on the bottom, which was, of course, worked in this direction. So we've got that fringe down there in two colors, and then this embroidery over the top of the mitten. And both of them, I did them two at a time on magic loop. So I got them both out of the way. but it was a lot of yarn to deal with because you had the 2 balls of yarn for everything and the embroidery, 2 different colors for each mitten, plus you were double stranding each of those colors to get this beautiful design. I just think they came out lovely. I really like how it looks against that black background. I did not enjoy knitting with this black yarn though, especially when I had to pick up the thumb gusset stitches and get that done because it's black, it was dark. I had to use like my neck light even though it was daylight outside just to make sure I could see what I was doing, but I'm very happy with how they came out. Now the only alteration I made to the pattern was with the thumb gusset. The original one uses like an afterthought thumb, like you're knitting and you stop and put like a bit of waste yarn and keep going and come back later, but I like to have a gusset for my thumb, so I did that and I'm happy with that now that it's done. I didn't enjoy knitting it, that's for sure, but I think it came out very nice. And the embroidery, very, very simple to do, not difficult at all. The fringe, a little bit finicky and time consuming. It took me a whole day to do the fringe. Not even, I think a separate day to do the first part of the fringe and then the rest of it was another day. But I love how it came out. I just think it's a lovely pair of mittens and I'm looking forward to wearing these. I'm keeping these for myself. I'm hoping when I was knitting it, the black dye was coming off on my fingers and I gave them a good soak and I didn't see any dye come out. So I'm hoping that issue is resolved because I can't say that I want to wear these mittens and then have like take my hands out and they're all black from the yarn. So hopefully that resolved itself. So the yarn is for the black it was Cascade 220 Superwash, and then for the embroidery and the fringe it was Knit Picks Palette. I'm not sure of the colors. It might be Lipstick and Semolina, I think. So I'm really happy with these. Happy to be finished knitting that black yarn though. I am wearing the next finished thing. This has been a work in progress. I got the yarn for this sweater last Christmas and this was my last project with my Christmas yarn. And which is just in time for Christmas because I know I'm getting yarn from my husband and my in-laws. So I've got a lot of knitting for the next year. I just realized looking at my pile here, besides those mittens, I think and 1 pair of socks, everything else is Knit Picks yarn. You can say I shop there quite a lot. And this yarn was from there. I dyed this one myself. This is the Sport Weight Wool of the Andes. And it is a little bit itchy. I think I'm going to give this a soak in some hair conditioner and see if that will help soften it up. And I probably will wear a long sleeve shirt underneath it because it's a bit itchy on my arms. But so it was bare yarn, and I had done some dyeing before with Kool-Aid and I wanted to try like using real dye. So I got some basic equipment, mostly from the dollar store, and I bought 1 pot from the grocery store. Everything else I got secondhand, so I didn't spend a ton on that stuff. And I probably should have started with a smaller project, but I didn't. I started with a whole sweater and I had to knit a sweater's worth of yarn. So I have 4 different colors here, from this dark blue fading out to this purpley speckled one that I used magenta. I had 3 colors that I used and I sort of mixed them all as I went. And these 2, it was in the same batch of yarn, but the colors came out different. I don't know how noticeable it is on the screen, but I can tell the difference between the 2 button bands, or not button, but the front bands. They were the same batch of yarn, but one took up a lot more pink than the other. So interesting. But anyway, this is finished. This was not a lot of work. You work each piece there. You work in 4 quadrants. You start at the cuff and knit up to the front one side, do that for the other side, do that for the back on both sides, seam the back together, and then sew the seams. Everywhere was a lot of sewing up, and then you knit the bands and sew them on separately. So a lot of sewing, but it is all finished now. Oh, and the hem at the cup at the bottom too is a nice deep hem. So I like how it came out. It's a little more stripy than I originally intended right here and right here between these 2 colors, where you fade from one color to the other, but not terrible. And it kind of hides when I have my arms down anyway, but it's nice. Another nice warm sweater I can have to wear around the house, which is probably what it's for. It is colorful, and I like, especially in the winter when it gets dark and gray and the sun is not out, and right now it's cold, I like to wear something nice and bright to cheer me up. So I'm not sure I'll wear this one out anywhere. I don't know, we'll see, but it'll definitely get worn around the house for sure, because it is nice and warm. But right now it's a little bit scratchy on the back neck and on my arms, so I think I'm going to give it a good soak in some hair conditioner and see if that will soften things up. But I am glad to have it done, and I know because I sort of like filled the cart for my husband, and so I know I'm getting some more bare yarn, and my plan this year is to knit 2 more projects and dye the yarn myself. This time it will be shawls, so a little bit easier at least, but it was a fun experience and I look forward to doing it again. And part of the giveaway prize this month is some of the leftover yarn. I turned it into like a mini skein set with 4 different 25-gram skeins. So that's part of the giveaway package at the end. Now I'm very pleased with my next project that I finally completed, my Advent mittens. I started these, I don't know if it was 2 years ago. That sounds about right. 2 years ago. And then I did a whole bunch, but then I just never finished them. I think I had like 5 left that I did not do. And it's been shoved in a basket. I have a basket of projects back here where I keep everything sort of piled up. But if it's not laying around the house somewhere, I try to keep them all in one spot. And it's been shoved in the bottom of that for the last 2 years, I think. And my husband this year was like, okay, how about you get those done, because I'd like to do like a homemade advent calendar for our daughter. And who's going to be 20, by the way, but I don't think we're ever too old for an advent calendar. He made one for me too. A friend of ours made like a little advent box with little cardboard boxes inside. So he went and bought lots of chocolate and some little knitting notions, and he filled up all of the days. So lots of fun. I like having a little advent calendar. I'd love to do a yarn one at some point, but I see them and they look so beautiful, but I'm always concerned I'm going to not like the colors so much. It's a big investment. I mean, it's not cheap, those advent calendar sets, and I would not be too happy if I really didn't like the colors. So anyway, advent calendar mittens are finished. I'll put a picture here. You can see them all hung up. This was before they are filled with their little chocolates, but I finally finished them. And these all use yarn from Knit Picks palette. I had all these different leftovers from doing different stranded projects, mostly from the master's program. We had some stranded knitting in level 2 and in level 3, so I have lots of leftovers. I still have a lot, but now I don't mind having all the leftover colors of that, because it's perfect for like small projects when you have some stranded colorwork knitting and you just need like a little bit of one bright color. Then I've got a good mix of colors there, but I did use up quite a bit to knit all of these mismatched mittens. You can see from the picture, none of them match. They're sort of like all different colors, but they came out very nice, unless you look closely and you can see the terrible tension I have. I think I used magic loop for most of them, and then the last few I used flexible DPNs. I think my tension was actually worse with those, but I'm not sure I love stranded knitting on a small circumference like this. It's very fiddly. I don't mind on bigger projects when I've got like at least a 16-inch circular needle. That seems to be fine, but when you get into these small things, but maybe with 2 circulars it wouldn't be so bad. I could try that next, I suppose, and see if I like that, because I do like that method for knitting small things. Or maybe like some shorty circulars, because then you're just knitting in the round the whole time without having to maneuver and change too much. But anyway, they are finally done after sitting in a basket for a couple of years. Next thing off my needles, I don't actually have here. I had to send it off to get photographed for Cast On magazine. I knit a kite shawl for the next issue. I'm doing an article on the different ways to knit triangle shawls, and I thought instead of doing like a top-down triangle or something like that, I would do something different, and I thought a kite shawl would be really nice. That is what I did. I used Sweet Georgia's Tough Love sock, the 1 skein of the Bear yarn, and then a Party of 5 set in Fruit Salad. That's the color combination. So it's a blend of superwash merino and nylon, so it's a good sock yarn, but really great for something like this when you want some fun colors in there. So I've got some stitch patterns going on, like just garter stitch stripes and some lace and some other stitch patterns in there as well. And writing it out as a pattern was a long process because there's just so much going on. But I'm really pleased with the finished project, and I'm looking forward to seeing that photographed for the magazine. Now, the last thing off my needles is our next pair of socks for our Toe Up sock series. Now, this one uses flexible DPNs. That's it. After a while, they start to all sort of blend together which pattern is which toe method and which heel method and which needle configuration. So, but this one was with flexible DPNs, and it features a sweet tomato heel and a little picot folded cuff, a little lace detail down the front. The toe, I can't remember, let me check my notes. I did not write down what the heel was, but looking at it, it looks like just a basic wedge heel, which is probably what I did. But yeah, I think it's a wedge heel shaping, but I did more of a rounded shape to it. And I'm pretty sure with this one I used yarn overs and then twisted them closed, now that I think of it. So very pleased with these, and these are nice sturdy socks. I used some yarn from Alley Cat Yarns for this tutorial, and I am very pleased with this yarn. I hadn't used it before and I wanted to give it a try. It's her Ontario sock. It is sheep that's raised in Ontario. The yarn is spun in Ontario and she dyes it. She's in Ontario. So it's a blend of 80% Dorset and Cheviot and 20% mohair, which is sort of like your replacement for nylon. So if you feel them, it's not like super soft, lovely, you know, merino yarn. But for socks, I love a good sturdy yarn. This has a lovely sturdy feel to it. And I haven't worn them yet, of course, and I haven't used this yarn, so I can't say how they'll hold up. But by feeling them, I think they're going to be a good sturdy yarn for sock knitting. So I'm very pleased with how the socks came out, and I'm looking forward to wearing them. Of course, I still have to get photos and stuff done before I can start wearing them around my house. Now the first thing still on my needles is a sweater. This is Flax by Tin Can Knits, but I have made a lot of modifications. You can tell from the neckline alone that I turned the crew neck into a V-neck. I've added waist shaping, I added some bust art shaping, lots of things going on with that sweater. But I'm using it as sort of like a test sweater. I'm teaching a workshop right now all about like customizing top-down raglan sweaters to fit you really well, and so I wanted to teach as many customizations as possible. So I'm doing my own sweater and customizing a lot. So I'm taking that basic pattern, Flax by Tin Can Knits, and changing it up. So I'm using, the yarn is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Worsted Superwash, because I wanted to test that as well, because superwash can be tricky when you are knitting a top-down seamless sweater because there's no seams for that yarn to hold on to. But this is pretty woolly superwash, I think. It seems to have good grip, and when I did my swatch, I didn't see a noticeable difference in size. I even hung it up after it was dry. I hung it from a bulletin board and put some clothespins on the bottom. I wanted to see if it was going to start to drape and really grow, and it didn't at all. It really held its shape well, so I'm really pleased with that, and it's coming out very nicely. I'm not loving the waist shaping, so I might pull that back out and redo that, but the knitting is going pretty fast, so it's an easy pattern, just plain stockinette and just like the raglan shaping. And then the hardest part, of course, is like sitting and doing the math for all of the calculations for all of the changes and the customizations, but that is working out just fine as well. So the next thing I need to do is like sort of pick out the rib pattern that I want to finish with, and pick up the stitches for the neckline and do the sleeves. So I've got to think about, I want to do a little something decorative since it's so plain. I think like some sort of maybe cable inside the rib or something. We have to think about that. Maybe some little lace panel in there. Just some little detail to give it a little decorative touch just in the ribbing on the hem and the cuffs of the sleeves and the neckline stitches. So we'll see about that, but it's coming along really well, and the workshop is going well. We've done like the first preliminary sessions to help people choose at the right size and take their body measurements and swatch and all of that. And then after Christmas is when we'll have our first session where we'll cast on and knit the sweaters. But of course, I'm going to be ahead of everybody else so I can teach all this stuff. So I'm trying to get my sweater finished, at least most of the body finished before we start in January. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm already planning the next session because we have a waiting list of people. So I'll put a link down below for that if that's something you're interested in. The whole point of the workshop is to help you take any top-down raglan pattern. The next one is going to feature a yoke pattern as well, because top-down yokes and top-down raglans are very similar. The only difference is, of course, how they are shaped in the yoke. But other than that, a lot of the fit and issues that you can have or changes you can make are very similar. So I'm working on a sweater already for that next workshop class, but there'll be a link down below for the waiting list if that's something you're interested in learning how to take any top-down seamless sweater, raglan or yoke, and make customization so it will fit you really well. So knitting for that workshop is probably taking up most of my time. I did a small sample sweater too, which I don't have right here to show you, plus the full-size sweater. So I've been spending a lot of time with that. So that's actually the only knitting project on my needles. I finished all those other things and I haven't cast on anything else because I wanted to get this sweater finished as much as possible. But of course I have my rule where I don't do work knitting on the weekends, and technically that is work knitting since it's for a workshop I'm teaching. And instead I've been doing a little crochet on the weekends. I had finished my previous blanket, which I've talked about for many episodes because it took me a long time to finish it, and that is ready to go as a Christmas gift. But I decided I wanted to do another blanket. I want one to have, like, to throw right here on the back of my chair, put a little bit of color right here. So I picked another pattern by the same designer, Jane Crowfoot. But her name is Jane Crowfoot, but her website is Janie Crow. So I chose her pattern, the Lily Pond blanket. And I'm not using the same yarn. I'm using Brava Sport from Knit Picks, which is 100% acrylic. I wanted something I can just throw in the washing machine and take care of really simply and easily. And I'm using very similar colors though. She has like the colors all shown in the pattern. So I just looked through the Brava Sport colors and picked as close as possible so I could just have like a very similar color palette. And it was originally a crochet along, so everything is sort of split up into sections where you do one little part at a time. So I'm just following the pattern just like that, and it's a free pattern. You can find it online. So the first one is these little flat bands. There are 4 of them, not so little, I guess. Got it wrong way, there we go, this way. So it's worked flat, of course, and lots of single crochet and double crochet and some treble crochet in there in this wavy pattern. So kind of reminds me of, like, I think that was her inspiration too, is Monet's water lilies and all of those beautiful colors in his paintings of his pond and at his home, where he spent a lot of time. I'd love to go see some of those original paintings someday. That would be really nice. But so I made 4 of these. Those are all done, and I'm working on the next one. I've got 4 of these these are the first little flower motifs, and I'm finishing them up right now. I've got them all right here. I do like one part at a time. So I do the little flower, I do all 4 of them, and then I do like the next little section for all 4 of them and weave in my ends as I go, and I just have this final section that I'm finishing off. So this is the first little flower. So I'm really cranking this right out. I think this is going to be a little faster than my previous blanket. I'm pretty sure this is also a smaller blanket, and but I'm having just as much fun with this one. And there are no like tutorial videos with it, so I'm sort of doing everything as I go. But so far I haven't encountered anything that has had me Googling. I've been okay with that. But I think with that previous blanket and all the experience of knitting all of those and watching her videos and picking up on the little techniques and tips that she shares, then I'm applying a lot of that to this blanket as well. And it's been a nice, relaxing knit or crochet project. It hasn't been anything stressful. And I mean, obviously within the last month, I've already done 4 of these and the 4 little first flower motifs, and I'm looking forward to finishing them up and starting the next one. But I do have some upcoming knitting projects. So now that it's almost Christmas break, I want to have a few projects on my needles. Because I'm taking 2 weeks off and I know I'm going to have a lot of free time for knitting. So I want to make time for some new projects as well. But this is coming along nicely already. Like, I'm just zipping right through. I'm very pleased with the pattern and following the instructions, and just looking forward to seeing how this looks when it's all done. I love the colors. They're not like super muted and soft. They've got like little bright punches in there, which is something I really like. So I wanted something colorful, and it's looking really nice. And I already have a list of a few more of her blankets that I'd like to knit, but I don't need piles of blankets everywhere. But maybe I don't want to knit them and like give them away as gifts unless they're something that somebody wants. Blankets are a big thing, and I would not want somebody to feel obligated to keep it just because I crocheted it. But I don't know, I like to crochet. This is just a really fun project. I like her beautiful colorful blankets, but I probably should like expand and like look for some other designers. And so if you have any recommendations for other crochet designers with bright colorful blankets, I can't think of anything else I want to crochet right now. So I have a few upcoming projects I want to tell you about. Just two right now. I have some yarn for some other ones, but I'm trying to I don't want to cast on too many things at once. Like if I have one color work project, then I focus on that one. Even though I've got two that I want to do and two I have yarn for, I'm going to just do one. When that one's finished, I'll start the next color work project. I just don't want to get stuck in the trap of having too many things on my needles and then they sort of just all sit there and never get done. So if I can limit myself to sort of one pair of socks, one color work project, one sweater, and then if I have something else, that's fine, a shawl maybe, and then my crochet project. So that's what, like 5 things? That's enough to have on my needles and hook at once without, I just think I'd feel overwhelmed if I had a lot of different projects on the go. And sometimes when I start to get bogged down in a project, thinking about the one I can cast on after is sort of like motivation to finish it up. So that's why, like with the color work projects, I have one that's double knitting and then one that is a stranded color work pattern. I'm going to do the double knitting one first because that's going to be a gift and I'd like to get that done for them. But then like I know at some point I'll probably get sick of knitting it. So, but my motivation will be, oh, I've got this next project all ready to go, but I can't cast it on till this one is done. So same with like, you know, pair of socks. Like I have to finish this pair before I can start another pair, or can't start another sweater until I finish this one. So I sort of make these little rules for myself just as sort of motivation to finish things so I don't end up with piles of half-finished projects, because that could happen, I suppose. But I am swatching for my next sweater already, even though the one I'm working on is for the workshop, and this one's also going to be for the workshop when we do the next session. I think that's going to open in March. That is going to be, I'm going to be knitting a top-down yoke sweater for that one, but I'll have like all of my demonstrations for knitting this sweater as well, the top-down raglan. So I'm swatching and doing all of my preliminary work for a top-down yoke. So I'm going to knit the Love Note sweater by Tin Can Knits, another Tin Can Knits pattern. And that one uses 2 yarns held double. So I'm using Knit Picks yarn. This is Knit Picks Hawthorn in their Cobbler Speckle, and then a Loft, which is an alpaca yarn. So I was taking a chance because I wasn't sure how these would knit up together, but I just finished my swatch and it's been sitting on the blocking board, and I think it looks pretty good. It's like this soft cotton candy kind of pink. That's what the alpaca, the color is called Blush, and it sort of like blends in with the fingering weight yarn, which is a white base with some purple and pink speckles in there. So I think it came out nice, and I'll be knitting in the round, so my swatch is like that messy in the round swatch. I'm not going to cut this though in case I need to use the yarn for something, but it's been soaked and it's been sitting on the blocking board, so now I'm going to spend a few days like just messing around with it, making sure it's really relaxed, and then I'll take my measurements to see. And I've got 2 different needle sizes. I wasn't sure. The original pattern is quite, it's a US 10, I think, so it's like very open and airy. I wasn't sure I'd want it that open and airy, so I did a US 9 and a US 10. So we shall see which one I prefer. But the swatching part is done, but of course I'm not going to cast on this sweater until the top-down raglan part is finished, but I do want to get a head start before the workshop. Now my other upcoming project that I'm planning to cast on this weekend is the Twilight Realm scarf by Genevieve Lagier. So it is a Zelda inspired scarf for my daughter. It's double knit using 2 colors. I'm using Comfy Fingering weight yarn from Knit Picks in Clarity and Planetarium. So this is a blend of Pima cotton and acrylic. She likes easy care stuff, so I want to make sure this was easy to care for. I'm hopeful that this yarn will be okay for double knitting. I think it will be fine, but I've got a whole bag full of it, and I think the colors will work for that scarf. She said 2 shades of blue, like a dark one and a light one, so that's what we've got. And I didn't find the pattern until like I don't know, was it November? And I showed it to her because I was looking at other like Breath of the Wild and Zelda inspired projects, and she saw the scarf and she's like, oh, that's my favorite game. So of course, so she's getting a scarf, but it's not, of course, not going to be ready in time for Christmas. But I told her she'll have it by spring, so she'll have to save it for next winter. And I haven't done double knitting since. I've never done a whole double knitting project. I've only done some swatching. In the master's program there is a double knitting swatch, so I'm probably going to pull that out and pull my binder out to refresh my memory. I know there's a couple ways you can do it, like you can knit the stitches and slip the other side, or do them both at once. I can't remember. And of course, different cast on techniques and things to neaten the sides. So I've got to refresh my memory on all of that stuff. I think we're going to have a month where we're just going to talk about double knitting, so I can talk about all the things that I'm relearning when I'm knitting this, because I don't remember, honestly, I don't remember. I did the swatch for the master's program, but it's like it's all whoosh, outside my head again, since I haven't applied it to any projects at all. It was just one swatch. Pretty sure that one passed too. I don't think I had to redo that one. So I think I must have done okay. So I'm going to pull out my notes, project notes in that swatch, and see like what kind of cast on I used and how I did the double knitting, because I don't remember at all. But the scarf, the pattern is free. So I've already downloaded it and looked at it, and it's basically just a chart. So once you cast on, you're just following this chart. So I just have to sort of refresh my memory when it comes to actually how to double knit, and then we can get going on that. So that'll probably be one of the things I work on over Christmas break, but it's a whole scarf, so it's going to take me a while, I imagine. So those are all the projects I have off my needles, on my needles, and upcoming. I have some yarn for a couple more, but I'm not planning to cast them on anytime soon, so I'll save them to share them at another time when I'm ready to cast on. But of course, we can't finish our podcast without wrapping up with our giveaway, our final giveaway for the year. I'm very excited about this one. So this one is sponsored by My Maker's Life from Etsy. She kindly got in touch with me and wanted to send a giveaway prize for you. So I am going to start that by including some yarn with it, since of course this is knitting related. So this yarn is, you can see it matches my sweater. I made up some bundles. I have 2 little bundles. We're going to give one away this month, and I'll save one for another month. So this is 100 grams of yarn, 25 grams in each of these little skeins of sport weight yarn. So enough to do a hat or something like that. But it's all sort of intended to go together in some kind of a fade project. So a hat or mittens or something. There's 100 grams here, 4 different colors. I will say I dyed this myself, and the 1 or 2 of the colors had like a little bit of the color does seem to bleed out into the water when I wash it. So you might want to put a little bit of vinegar in. Don't wash this with anything else, at least the first time, to make sure the colors have set. And but other than that, I think it should be absolutely fine. I just wouldn't like sort of wash it with anything else until you make sure the whatever extra dye. It was my first time dyeing yarn, so I'm just warning you now, if you win this, you want to wash it. After you knit the project, of course, maybe put a splash of vinegar in the water, but don't put anything else, any other projects in there, just in case if there's any color bleeding. I just want to warn you first. So 100 grams of yarn, and this is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, the sport weight yarn. Not superwash though, it's 100% wool. And our little nerdy knitting pin is also going to go in that giveaway prize. And the last thing from My Maker's Life is this cute little tea caddy. A little tea carrying case. It snaps open and it's filled with tea and chocolate and this sweet little wooden spoon. So all of these little pockets, they've got tea in there. Oh, and some sugar too. Little packages of things and some chocolate. Very, very cute little tea caddy. So if you are a tea drinker, this is definitely the prize for you. And I'm going to have a link to her shop down below so you can check it out. There's actually more tea over here that's going to go in this, as well as a little honey spoon. Isn't that so cute? I can smell all the tea too. So I'm going to put this in a package by itself so the yarn won't smell like tea. But to enter this giveaway, it smells really good. just answer one question: tea or coffee? Which one do you like to drink? And if you answer that question, then I'll know that you want to enter the giveaway. And next Wednesday, the 27th, I will choose a winner. I'll use a random comment generator to choose one of your comments. Then I'll reply to your comment and tell you that you won, and you've got to send me an email within 48 hours telling me your name and full mailing address so I can get your prize in the mail to you. So just answer that question. Are you a tea drinker, a coffee drinker, or do you drink coffee in the morning and then tea in the afternoon? Or what's your routine? I'm more of a coffee person, but the occasional cup of tea on a cold afternoon is really nice. A nice cup of chai tea is probably my favorite. So this smells really nice. Goodness, the tea in there. So this cute little tea caddy to hold your little tea stash. I know a few people who love tea, and is this the type of thing you would put in your bag and take it with you so you could get like a mug of hot water somewhere and make your own tea? I feel like that would be the perfect thing to pop into your little purse or whatever. But it's very cute. All of the little teapots and things on this fabric is just adorable. So thank you, My Maker's Life, for providing this for the giveaway, along with some more tea over here to go with that, plus the 100 grams of yarn and the little nerdy knitting pin. So I'm very pleased that we're wrapping up with something fun and different at the end of the year. So go ahead, leave your comment down below, whether you're a tea drinker or a coffee drinker, and you can enter the giveaway. And for the fine print, this giveaway is not sponsored in any way by YouTube. It's just me giving away some yarn and our sponsor, My Maker's Life, providing another giveaway prize as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Nerdy Knitting Podcast. I'm going to put a playlist right here, so if you're new, you can watch past episodes from this season. And if you're a returning viewer and you've caught up on all the episodes of the podcast, there'll be another video right here that you might have missed and you'll want to check out. So I'll see you in the next video.